All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see everybody. It's been a while for me. I feel like I haven't interacted with much of y'all. So it's really good to finally be interacting with everybody. It's a pleasure. Welcome to the Sinners Only podcast. My name is Josh Mariscal, aka J Mars, aka your local neighborhood Warriors boy. Warriors won. We got it. We got it, baby. Four championships.
Dang.
Let's get it, baby. That's right
Dang.
here,
Yo,
man.
I'm gonna just go on record by saying that this man was not a Warriors fan before 2015, yo.
All I'm saying is that Chad has been calling the Suns the past 2 years, and he hasn't got it yet. That's all I'm saying. That's
Yo,
all.
but who else called the Suns going to the finals last year, yo? Back
Yep.
in
Right.
April of last year.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
Before the playoffs even started.
Yo, this man was on point. I was starting to believe him for a second.
When they were like 8th seed.
Yo, yeah, they were. They had to come up, man. They had to come up, but Warriors took him down this year. So we out here.
Yo, honestly, bro, yeah, bro. Yo, I feel like you can't really hate on Steph Curry, bro. Like you just gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like you can hate on LeBron, right? You can hate on LeBron. You might be able to hate with Chris Paul, hate on Chris Paul. You can hate on Jason Tatum,
Yeah, yeah. For,
but like,
that,
yo, I feel like you can't hate on Steph Curry, bro.
no one's got any more ammo against him now. Those saying that he's not the greatest because he got no Finals MVP. Look at him now. You know that's all I'm saying. He's a Finals
All
MVP.
I'm saying is, bro, this man Steph Curry won the championship before KD, with KD, and after
And
KD, bro.
after Case, bro.
So
Well, yeah,
I want to hear nothing, yo.
I don't want to hear none of that, John, bro.
Speak my John, yo.
Yeah,
John's not here, yo.
John's not here. Elijah's out. And perfect timing because it's been, as I mentioned, it's been a while for me. Um, Quick update, yo. I'm okay. I'm alive, as y'all can see. I'm a little bit of a different perspective right now. I'm on my phone, not on my computer. So I'm trying something different. But we out here. Chad, how you doing, man?
Bro, I'm doing.
You
That's
doing?
it. I'm doing. No, say not. Nah, bro. I'm good, bro. I'm good. Honestly, today's Father's Day and whatnot.
Yeah,
I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania this weekend.
nice.
Went out there with some family members. We had a really good, relaxing weekend. Went in the pool. Went on Amish country tour. Like, I mean, I've been doing that for like 20 years, so like I feel like I've been on that tour like a million times, but it's still cool. It's still cool to just unplug and go away for a bit.
Yeah.
Um, the good news is, man, I am, what is it, 5 days away from ending my diet.
Yo,
So I could finally eat Taco Bell again, bro. And that's the one thing I'm just looking forward to,
get
Like,
get yourself a cheese crunch. What's it called? A cheese crunch wrap or something like that. What's
yo, I'll just buy the whole menu, bro. Make a whole YouTube video out of it. Buying the whole Taco Bell menu.
yeah, mukbang ASMR.
Bro, honestly, I'm thinking this is what it's gonna be, right? I'm gonna get up Friday morning, right?
Okay.
I'm gonna go for my run or whatever, right? Maybe a little bit extra because I'm about to go off, right?
All
So
right.
so then for lunch, bro, we're gonna start off with some Taco Bell, probably like one or two boxes, right? Like just get one or two boxes. Eat it whole, and then wait till dinner time. Go get
Right.
some sushi for dinner,
Mm,
and then on the way back, stop at like Walmart or ShopRite or something, get some powdered donuts,
mm.
some mega stuff Oreos, you
Yo,
know, a can of Sprite too, just throw it in there just cause, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yo,
I
you're
feel,
you're you're a diverse man. You have Taco Bell, sushi, American snacks. Wow.
yeah, man. I'm thinking, bro. Who knows, man? I might end up throwing some Chinese food in there to, get culturally diverse with it.
Right. That's right. All I'm saying is don't go to that Chinese buffet that we once went to because
Hey, yo, honestly, yo, yo, we went to this buffet. Yo, Josh never saw somebody eat as much as I do.
this guy got like literally a billion plates, dude, one after the other.
Oh man, and top it off, that was half of that was sushi too, bro. Yeah, I don't know what it is, bro. I just could eat. I should enter a competitive eating competition for
Dude, go
sushi.
for it, bro.
Yeah, bro. I feel like I could shovel down at least 100 pieces of sushi.
Who's that Asian guy on YouTube that like does the shoving the food down his throat?
Matt Stoney,
That-
Matt
oh,
Stoney.
Tony. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Matt Stoney ain't got nothing on me. You know what's crazy though? Matt Stoney has a very similar diet to me, like
Yeah.
regular on a regular daily basis. He's pretty similar similar to me. It's only for those videos he goes crazy. But
right.
honestly, I've always compared myself to Matt Stoney because, like, bro, I feel like I could push past that mark that, like, where you feel full. I could just keep eating, bro. I could
Right.
literally just keep eating and eating and eating and eating
Yeah.
and not stopping. I don't know. I don't know how that happened. I don't know why that happened, but
Right.
like it might end up being something I gotta get checked out by like a psychologist or something, bro. But the one thing I
Yeah.
could tell you, the last 8 weeks, bro, on this diet, I have not felt that hungry though. I have not felt like that, like feeling to overeat. So which is really good because honestly, that's why I go on this diet once a year because I really do end up overeating at some point, like in the winter or something. I'll end up eating like 3 cups of ramen at night, make like 2 ham and cheese sandwiches, shovel that down with some
Oh,
mashed potatoes and and
goodness.
and chicken
Wow.
and like and I'll catch myself and I'm like, wow, I just down like 3,000 calories in a matter of like 2 hours. So this little diet kind of resets my hunger hormones and whatnot. So,
Right.
um, but
Also,
yeah, no, man, all together this weekend's been good. Went out, today, hung my dad, got some food.
yeah.
We went to see my wife's dad just now. We just came back from up there and
Right.
it was just a chill day, bro. Chill day.
Nice. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been out all weekend. Also, I've been in DC, heresy hunting.
Hey,
Um,
yo.
yeah, man. Listen, we gotta be out here. We gotta stay vigilant on these false pastors, bro. No, sorry, not. No, it was a
Hey,
good.
yo.
It was a good church. I'm not gonna name the church, but it's a very solid church.
Dang, Josh just got a text from certain people that was
Yeah.
like, "Yo, what'd you just say about my
Yeah.
shirt? Say that, say that, say that, say that." Oh, it's all love, bro. It's all love. I love that church though. I love
Yeah,
it.
no,
Love
it's
the
a good,
pastors and everything out there.
solid doctrinal church. That's all.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we out here, as Chad has mentioned a couple of times, it's Father's Day today. And so we just wanted to kind of just have a candid conversation about like the role of father in American society, and not just American society, and society as a whole. The what is the relevance of fathers? Why we're in need of having a father figure in our life, and ultimately what the role of God the Father has in all of this as well. We got no questions prepped. We just want to have a candid conversation about this. So we're just gonna go right ahead. I mean, I guess I can start up. Kind of talking about like my experiences. Growing up, I had both parent figures in my life. I had a father who's a pastor, and so he really helped kind of raise me within the Christian household and whatnot. And I really got a bunch of my understanding about my faith and developed my faith through what he was able to teach me and whatnot. So he really served as kind of that figure for me, and obviously just how to be a man in general. So yeah, I mean, like for me, it's honestly been a really positive experience. But I know for many people, it's
Shout
not.
out to Franklin.
Shout out to Franklin. Yeah, for real. No, but yeah, but I know that so many people don't really have that experience. So I can say that I was honestly fortunate enough to be able to have that. But shout out to the people who are currently either grieving the loss of a father, or who didn't have a father growing up. Someone to look up to. And my heart does go out. And I genuinely do pray for peace and whatnot for those who may not have had that kind of figure in their life. But yeah, and so all I can say for me at least is that my experience has been a positive one where I did have someone to look up to, and someone who coming from Peru, having immigrant parents from Peru, just people that have shown me how to work hard, work diligently, seek
Yeah, yeah.
all that I do. Seek first the kingdom and His righteousness, and all things will be added to me. So just really having that mentality, that mindset. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Having literally just having those mindsets, just ingrained in me, is something that I really learned from both my parents, but especially my father.
All
My,
right, you heard it here, folks. That's it.
yeah,
Podcast over. We'll see y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
yeah, yeah, no,
Say no, say no.
oh, but yeah, it's really good. The ups and downs. Obviously, everyone's imperfect, but I have me and my brother to show the results of what a positive father, a figure can do in one's life.
My brother and I.
Brother, nah. Yo, listen, we gotta talk to Abigail right here.
Yo, for the viewers that don't know, I've been grilling Josh about his speaking when he messes up his little grammar while speaking because this man went to college and got a communications degree. So he always says me and is that person and I. So I said, "No, Josh, you go on my bad, bro."
Hey, bro. Go off. All right. Hey, well, how about you, Chad?
Well, yeah, man. Yeah, I had my dad growing up. Same thing, immigrant household. My dad was very hardworking, very strict. My dad's like very, very strict, even to this day. He's like a no nonsense type of person. I feel like majority of my ambition and demeanor comes from him because of like just like with me he's just super straight to the point, and he's very very strict, and I want this done this way, that done that way, and I just kind of done, have always grew up in that way. And honestly, at the time of growing up, I really used to feel like pressured. I used to be like, oh, why is my dad so strict? But now, like all grown up now, like I look back and I'm like, I'm glad I had that structure because a lot of people did not have that structure. A lot of people, even people who did have fathers in their house, like they didn't have like that harsh very very strict parent in the house, and they unfortunately end up doing wrong things and getting into trouble and stuff like that. But like in my household, I was just always so scared of my dad, so I never, I wouldn't say I wouldn't get in trouble because I would get into trouble in school like
Right.
every day, but like I wouldn't get into too much trouble, you know what I'm saying? Like just out of like the reverence for my dad in the home, so
Yeah.
always love my dad just because like, yeah, man, he's very, very hardworking. He like even when I started college, he started a second job. He worked pretty much like he already works around 50, 60 hours, but he took up a second job and was working another like 10, 15 hours, so just to help me pay for school and stuff like that. And that's such a huge blessing because I know a lot of people just, they don't have it like that, so
Yeah.
um yeah, man, shout out to my dad. But yeah, that's just a little bit about my background. But
Sure.
yeah, man, Josh, you know what I wanted to talk about today, bro?
Sure.
Just the role of fathers and how that's such a beneficial thing. um Kind of like I just wanted to read some statistics, like some social stats about like you know places that people that don't have parents and whatnot. Like we see higher infant mortality rates, we see 85% of children with behavioral disorders come from a home without a father. And just think about the news recently. Just think about all the news we've seen in the last like year, and let that statistic sit down and see and feel that. It says girls without a father are more than 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teenager. It
Mm,
says children in fatherless homes are twice as likely to be obese in childhood than children with an active father figure. Children have a higher rate of drug and alcohol abuse in the home without a father. What else is there? 60. Oh, actually, I don't want to say this word because on YouTube's about to hit us. All right.
okay.
Children are more than 4 times likely to be in poverty from a lack of father. And just pretty much down the line, life is, you could just see the common trend. Life is just super super dim and gray without fathers in the household. Like
But why
all
would you say that's the case? Like, is there some sort of correlation with like I don't know, just hearing those stats? Do you think that there's some correlation between like what the father is supposed to set an example of versus like I don't know. I don't know. Is there some correlation between anything there?
I think I honestly do think there's a few different reasons that me going into this, right? So bringing sociology into this,
Okay.
yeah,
Using
because I brought your degree into this.
yeah.
Let me bring my
There.
degree. So yeah, no, the family is the strongest institution in someone's life, right? More than school, more than government, more than bureaucratic offices, more than
Mhm.
TV, anything, right? So the family is the strongest institution. So when you are, I guess, when the family structure is altered, there's effects of that, right? Cause and effects. But also too, fathers, I guess, are more likely to be This is a huge generalization here, but I'm just more likely to be a little bit more strict, more they have a little bit more I guess instinct to be the household, be the head of the household, but also it plays into the idea of the Bible and God's design of the household, right? I ultimately I feel like this is the most important part here, right? So it's like um the the father is called to lead his wife and his children, right? At least from a biblical standpoint, and that's what we believe to be the objective truth of God and his design of the household, right? The family unit. Um, Much like everything else, bro, I feel when you move away from the design that God has created, you have a really bad effects that come from that, right? And I'm glad you're here today because you could definitely bring up scripture, like on scripture, these things. So we could definitely cross reference all this later. But yeah, man. I just feel like like just think about like marriage, right? Like certain people, people they move away from God's idea of marriage. Men and women, they don't follow the way that God has intended marriage sometimes. And what happens, you see infidelity. I mean, you see this in the church too. I'm not saying it's not in the church, but you see people getting STDs. That STDs are a direct effect of not following God's design. You know what I'm saying? Like, well, for the most part, at least, right? Things like that. Just kind of creating our own way and not going the direction that God wants us. We definitely do see effects of the fall get ramified because of that, right? So if a man has a kid and abandons his kid, that's not the design that God has intended, and there's effects of the fall there.
Sure, absolutely. You kind of touched on a little bit, and while you were talking about how fathers tend to kind of be a little bit more the strict one, a little bit harder, and so kind of touch a little bit on how on the differences with like how say a mother would act versus like how a father would act, and um, why there seems to be kind of like a difference in like I guess kind of generalizing more of a nurturing side of mothers versus more of a strict kind of strict kind of way that fathers tend to be, and how that kind of also falls in line with how God's order of things tends to be.
Gotcha. Yo, so yeah, no, I have to put the disclaimer that this is a generalization because I already know I'm gonna get a mad DMs the next week. Be like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? This is a generalization here, so I'm saying that out loud so
Right,
they don't come for me, bro.
right. Don't come
So yeah, man. Again, I guess I can attempt this from the sociological standpoint, right?
Mhm,
And I actually learned this in sociology because we were talking about um when I was at one of my early classes, and you could also ask Paulie Walnuts about this, our boy Paulie, about this because yeah, so because he was definitely in that class, he was sitting right behind me, but yeah, man, so there's this statistic about how men make more money than women,
mhm.
and there's the wage gap.
Right.
So at that time, me at the time, I was very very conservative at that point, right? I was really 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 conservative at that time.
Are you
I heard
liberal right now?
I don't know. I don't think I guess I'm a little bit more removed from politics than I once was. Let me just say it like that. um, but yeah, I heard the professor say that, and I was like, what do you mean? And I said, oh, men tend to do more jobs that are in STEM and construction, and women tend to do more jobs in nurturing and caring, like nurses and teachers. And I was like, compare a union construction worker to a unionized teacher and tell me the pay right there, right? And you'll see very quickly why you have that gap, right? So the professor got he got really angry in that moment, right? So he was like, what do you mean? Do you know why that is? He's like, compare it to women. I think he mentioned in Afghanistan at the time. This was like 2017 or something like that.
Right.
He's like, women in Afghanistan, they tend to study, go into STEM, right? And how come there's a lower percentage of women here that go into STEM, right? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I really don't know why that is. And he's like, well, I can explain that is because he said a lot of this goes back to the way, just remember how I said institutions
Right.
earlier, like just outside. There's three different stages of that development, right? You have you just have three. I can't remember them right now because it's been so long ago, but um one of the in one of the stages, you play, right? I think that's the last stage. That's around when you're at age 5, right? You start playing. You create games, and you play with other people, right? That's around age like 5. It could happen earlier, but that's really where the self is developed, right? And when you start playing with things has a lot to do with who you are when you grow up, right? So explanation is that, well, girls in America, they play with dolls, they play with nursing toys and stuff. Men, they play with pretend hammers and pretend screwdrivers and fix and things to fix, and and all this and that. And I guess that's a sociological explanation, which does have some validity. But then again, I just feel like a lot of women are more, again, generalization, more, I'm not saying all women, but more women are hardwired to be more nurturing, and just thinking about things primitively. A lot of our life, a lot of our decisions, a lot of our biology, a lot of it is primitive. It comes back from genes and stuff like that. Like,
Mm.
my body holds more fat than more some other people, because my ancestors needed the food was more scarce. It's just way, like, men have that same primitive reasoning. Men have more spatial awareness, so they were the hunters, like spatial reasoning, not awareness, spatial reasoning, right? Men have better spatial reasoning, generally speaking. So, you know, it makes sense that they were the hunter gatherers at the time, and women had biologically, they were able to feed the children, and connect with them, and when that happens, oxytocin is produced, right? Oxytocin is produced, so women tend to be a little bit more connected with the bond and nurturing towards the children. And maybe that's another explanation, but also, again, maybe just God's design, like God, but not saying that men can't be nurturing. But yeah, I
Right.
guess that's just the way I would answer that.
Right. Yeah, sure. And so we were kind of like mentioning how this is pretty much generalizations, putting saying that men are solely this, women are solely this. But there can be sort of like a balance of both that both fathers and mothers can have. And so, what would you say is like what strikes the right balance? For men to be strict, but also showing care and affection and love, and then for mothers on the other side also to kind of show a little bit more of the firmness alongside with that nurturing that she tends to give.
Gotcha. So a while back, this had to be like 2017, 2016. I'm sitting in Patterson, right? And this guy walks up to my car. Older guy. He's some from some Middle Eastern country. Um, and I'm sitting in my car. I'm sitting in my car parked in this driveway, and he's just throwing out his trash, and my windows are down. And he walks by once. I'm on my phone. Um, and he comes back again, and I'm still on my phone, right? So he comes back a third time,
Mm.
and he approaches my vehicle, and he's like, so I live here in this building. He's like, I passed you twice and you didn't even look at me, right? And he's like, I was like, so, like, what's the big deal? I'm like, so what's the big deal? He's like, well, I could tell you a lot about yourself,
Mm.
and I bet you're not gonna believe what I'm gonna say. And he's like, well, I can tell that you had a father in your household, but you grew up a lot, spending a lot of time with your mother, um, and probably your dad was working a lot, or you just didn't really interact with him much, and especially in your teenage years. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how do you know that? He's
Right.
like, he's like, well, he's like, I'm a master in human nature. I'm like, what does that even mean, right? What do you mean, a master in human nature? And he went on this whole rant about when he came to America. He sat at age like 16 teaching a class at Rutgers, and I'm like, what? Like, what? I'm like, who is this guy? But he, after speaking with him back and forth and this and that, he told me, like, he told me that the reason he knew that is because my body, my posture, I was a little bit hunched, and I had my head away from him looking down. And he's like, that's a clear sign that you never had a lot of male affection. And I
Mm.
was like, Wow. So he's like, when you're growing up and you don't have a lot of male affection, you end up lacking courage growing like
Mm,
in your adulthood. Lack of compassion leads to a lack of courage as an adult. And when he said that, bro, I was like, that's actually crazy. He's like, yeah, when you have kids, tell them you love them, give them a hug, like even if it's a boy, give them a hug. If they're crying, console them. Like he
right.
said, like these are things that need to be done, because if you don't, that child will grow up with a lack
Mm,
of courage.
yeah.
So I definitely think, the role of the father, definitely should be encouraging the child, making sure that they don't give up. That's one thing my dad did growing up. He always made sure I didn't give up on things, and he just gave me, doing that, but also, giving hugs, talking to them, having real conversations. And yeah, I think that that's a big part of it. It's funny, yeah, because me and my dad never really talked too much growing up, even though, he um he what do you call it? He lived at home. We didn't really talk too much. He'd come home, he'd eat dinner. I'd be in my room, he'd be in his room, and that'd be the end of it. We wouldn't really be talking too much. Every once in a while, but
Right.
um, and I was ever since that I made an effort to talk to my dad more. Made effort to show my brother more compassion and stuff like that. So it's really important that you have both. You have both of those things.
Sure, 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 sure. And I guess that kind of goes into the conversation of like, that's kind of been, especially in the forefront, I would say probably the last decade, maybe two, of toxic masculinity and this whole idea that men kind of tend to grow up not really like basically being told by either their family, specifically fathers, or father figures, or society as a whole to basically man up, be a man, and
Yeah,
being
yeah, yeah.
what is equivalent to showing no emotion, showing no affections, not showing, as much, like loving natures. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you perhaps have any stories or anything that you've heard of, perhaps of people who were kind of brought up in that kind of environment of, like not really necessarily showing so much affection and how that may have affected them, perhaps? I mean, I'm trying to think of like, I don't know, stories, and I don't know, like how do you think that that kind of mentality sort of negatively affects people? This idea of not showing emotion, not showing too much compassion or whatever.
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I guess a little bit of same thing I was saying. Like, like me and my in this case, I felt like I lacked that courage. That's why a lot of my like my TikTok content and all of my like Instagram, I mean YouTube content and stuff now, it really is teaching. Showing the value of masculinity, right? Like even like even the fact that we have toxic masculinity in the culture, I think all of that's a late effect of how fathers have treated their sons like in prior generations.
Yeah.
Like I feel like because even me, I remember middle school and stuff, early high school. Like if I were to talk the way that some of these guys talk about like some of these females and stuff like that, and my dad heard me, he would get really mad, and he'd punish me. He'd be like, you can't be talking about women like that, like that's wrong and stuff like that. And like that, like, I feel like toxic masculinity, like me, I would never talk like that because my dad always kept me in check growing up, right?
Right.
So it's like I felt like, people that I guess don't, if the father doesn't at least, show that courage and that compassion, like I said before,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, those are things that can slip through, and those things can affect society and stuff like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, kind of taking this conversation to like, I guess, more of a, I guess, on the Christian side of things. You know, so we have this sort of image of God the Father, God the Son, obviously the Holy Spirit, Trinity,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all working in perfect harmony, and like, we have one being, three persons, all coexisting internally, as one, but yet three distinct persons: God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. Each of them serving different roles, but all of them being one being, right? And so, how would you say that sort of the relationship that God the Father and God the Son have? How would you say that that kind of exemplifies how the relationships that we have with our fathers kind of serve?
Mm. Mm, that's a good question. That's a good question. It's a very unique question. I'm trying to stall while I think of an answer for it.
Because
um,
like so like we can kind of use like the roles that each person of the Trinity has as like kind of a picture of how different facets of life kind of works, you know.
yeah, yeah,
Like for example, like when we think about the whole complementarian egalitarian debate, for example, just using that as an example, they people on the complementarian side will kind of use the Trinity as an example, as to how the Father, or rather how the Son is submitted to the Father in terms of role, but yeah, are one in being. And so complementarians will say, hey, like men and women are one in, or they're all like we're the same being, humans, but yet we serve different roles, different
yeah,
purposes.
yeah.
And so in the same way, I'm trying to think of like how, you know, like God the Father, God the Son serve different roles, but yet one person, and how that kind of like that kind of relationship kind of works within human father and son relationships, you know.
Well, one thing's for sure. One thing is for sure is that Jesus himself was just really he himself was obedient to the Father. Like in following his Father's commands. And he said I'm about my Father's business. Like I'm about my Father's business. Like um it's such a, again, I feel like there's a really intricate question, because it's like it's hard to relate that back to our human relationship with our own fathers, I think. I don't know. I'm gonna have to pass this one to you, Josh. I'm stumped.
I get you. I get you. Yeah, it's definitely something that requires, you know, a bit of thought. But yeah, I would say I think that like what you just mentioned right now about the obedience, I think that that's a good place to kind of start there, because we see how God the Son Jesus, at least in his earthly life when he took on human flesh, you know, he literally just followed to perfection, as he always does. He followed to perfection, you know, everything that God the Father commanded. You know, we have him always like going back to the Father in prayer, for example, and you know, and when he's in the when he's praying to God right before he's about to get arrested, and whatnot,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
like take this cup from me, yet not my will, yet your will. You
Yes.
know, so we see that example of God the Son following what God the Father sort of yeah, has commanded. And so obviously to like kind of put that into like a human sort of context, you know, we have our fathers who were placed specifically with the role of serving as that figure for us sons, you know, and daughters and children in general to kind of follow. So I'm
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
of in the book of Ephesians, I believe it's in chapter 5, um, where
I
it
wonder if
talks about,
Kanye ever made it to Ephesians 5.
yo, for real, yeah. But wasn't Chance the Rapper, I think, also going to Ephesians?
Oh snap, yo, we lost Josh. Oh, technical difficulty, people. Josh will be right back. Hopefully he clicks on the link again. But in the meantime, like, I really don't know. I don't know where Josh is going with this. So I guess we're just gonna have to wait. Oh, he's back. He's back.
No.
Boom.
Oh, we back. I have no idea what just happened. That's what happens when you're on your phone instead of a computer.
Word.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, my computer is actually just bugging out, but I'm currently looking up Ephesians 5, where it talks about the roles of okay, here we go. Uh, well, this is talking about specifically the husband's roles with wives. Um, I'm currently blanking out the chapter specifically, because this Ephesians 5 chapter is talking about wives submitting to their husbands, husbands loving their wives. So that's not necessarily what I was looking for. I was looking for the one where it talks about like kind of like children and how they're meant to follow their fathers and their parents specifically. And so kind of going back to this whole obedience thing that we're talking about with God the Son obeying the Father until the point of death, even death on the cross, as Philippians 2 talks about. You know, then the same exact way we have our earthly fathers, in which we're meant to, you know, follow and obey. And of course there's going to be a level of imperfection with that, you know, as us, all of us humans are. But I think that's with when it comes to, you know, just setting your heart and your mind towards the things of God, you know, fathers will always have the best interests of the kids in mind. If they have their hearts seeking after God, if they thirst for His righteousness, then everything that they say and do will be ultimately for the betterment of their children. And so I think that obedience to the fathers, it has to be taught at a very young age. And it doesn't necessarily have to be. At first, it could be sort of in a sense of like, just following strict orders. But I guess as a kid grows up, there could be a matter of like explaining like this is why you have to do XYZ, because XYZ will lead to this. If you don't do XYZ, it will lead to that. You know,
Mm.
and so I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
yeah, I think that providing delineating, the delineating between the positive consequences of what actions lead to versus the negative consequences of what other life actions lead to is super important to explain, especially as they're growing up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
having that kind of be the boundary marker for how kids are meant to obey their parents, specifically their father. And especially as we know, like the father, the husband is meant to be the head of the household. So kind of having them set that example of what to do, how to follow in God's paths, and whatnot, I think is super important.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, yeah. You know what that also reminds me of, Josh? Now that I've gotten some time to think about
Yeah.
this, um, so the the role of man, right, on Earth is to glorify God, right?
Right.
Human beings
The,
exist to
in
glorify
the
God.
in the words of the Westminster Catechism, the chief end of man is to glorify God and to enjoy Him forever.
Bro, yo, Josh, you're on the same wavelength as me, bro. I was not expecting you to quote the Westminster Catechism. Oh snap, that's actually crazy. But yeah, so like the role of man on earth is to glorify God, right? Like that is the
Right.
purpose of human being, right? Ladies and gentlemen, if you never heard that, that's what it is, right? Like that's why we exist. We exist to glorify God, right? And in doing that, right? You think about the creation story of how God created Eve for Adam, right? Now you wonder, it makes you wonder why God created Eve, right? He could have just created a lot more men, right? He could have created a lot more men, right? But he created Eve, right, for this purpose of reproduction and whatnot, right, in his design. But nevertheless, he didn't create Eve as solely just another worker like Adam. He created Eve as a helper, right? So then what's the purpose of reproduction? There's Adam and Eve, there doesn't need anybody else, right? But then you think about it, the purpose of reproduction is to make more humans to glorify God, obviously, but God then commands these people to work the land, you know so the same the responsibility of the human unit, right, the family unit, is to glorify God in work, right? And what does that mean? I don't just mean like, oh, going to 9 to 5, but like work as in all things you do.
Mhm.
um all things you do, right? These early Jewish people, they when they did when they had their Sabbath, what did they do? They rested from everything,
Everything.
everything.
Mhm.
So the existence of the father in the household then to create, children, obviously, and not always, some people can't have children, some people are called singleness, but on the more wide scale sense is to glorify God in existence. Glorify God in all that you're working. And I know that seems like a very simple answer, but the more and more people that there is, that means the more and more purpose there is to glorify God.
Right.
And that's the father's role, is to lead his children to God and ultimately teach them to glorify God.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. And yeah,
Westminster Catechism taught us well, bro.
I, I would like to offer a disclaimer. I am not Presbyterian.
Me
Not,
neither.
I am not. I rebuke it. No, wait, what?
No, you know what's funny? Actually, my pastor at my church, bro, he quotes the Westminster Catechism a lot. And one of the oldest elders at our church,
Yeah.
who's not an elder anymore, he stepped down.
Uh,
Um, Yeah, he used to like he lived in that Westminster Catechism, and he loved the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with the Presbyterian Church. I love the Presbyterian Church,
yeah,
but it's funny. Even though our church is non-denominational, I feel like it does lean a heavy Presbyterian, even though
yeah.
it doesn't seem like a Presbyterian church at all. But
Right.
doctrinal wise, I've noticed that.
It makes sense because the Presbyterian Church tends to be more on the not tends, they pretty much are more on the reform side.
Very
Uh,
reformed.
very, yeah, yeah. I I almost feel like I'm like, if I were reformed, I would want to be Presbyterian, but the infant baptism still kind of trips me up. I'm like, dog, like,
Yeah.
it,
Oh wait. Presbyterians do infant baptism?
yeah, yeah,
Oh
they do,
snap! I didn't even know that. Well, our church
yeah,
doesn't do that. Our church does, you
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's a big marker, sort of between like say Reformed Baptists and like Reformed Presbyterians, where it's like Reformed Baptists will obviously do full like a believer's baptism. You have to believe in order to be baptized. They
yeah.
they baptize for infants. So
Uh,
yeah,
all right. Well, I could tell you this right now. I don't believe in infant baptism, so just gonna get my
yeah.
disclaimer there. You know.
That's a good conversation for another day. Baptism, yeah. And talk about these cults that believe in infant. Like what? It's like nah. It's like nah. It's like nah. Presbyterians, y'all, are my brothers and sisters in Christ. All
We
right,
love y'all Presbyterians.
we just disagree.
And,
Uh,
and and if any Presbyterians want to support me as a missionary, you know, my DMs are always open. So, you know, I'm still raising
don't
support out here.
don't take our jokes as an opportunity for you not to support Chad. Please support Chad.
Oh snap, yo! Honestly, I like this conversation today, bro. It was nice and smooth. You know, I'm thinking we should end off a little bit earlier today. You
Sure.
know, yeah. But before we
Any,
do go, I had one specific statistic I wanted to bring
yeah,
up. So
sure.
in the year of 1989, 4% of stay-at-home parents were moms. Oh no, were dads, right?
That
The rest were moms, right?
right.
In 2016, that rose to 7%. Now, I want a round of applause for all my kings. Ready?
Yeah.
As of result, dads make up 17% of all stay-at-home parents now. Yo, for all the kings out there, man.
All the kings.
That's such a positive statistic. Oh man, y'all stay home and collect this back. No, say
Like
no, man. Take your kids to the soccer games.
take,
Continue doing that, you know.
yeah, yes, that's good. King slay kings.
Yeah, King Slay out here, you know. And before we go, you know, just tap in with you know, if you're audio only listener, tap in with our YouTube, you know, subscribe. We do we got the video on here, you know, we do the visual podcast on here. Maybe season 3 we might end up doing some visual podcasts on Spotify. Who knows? You know, if you're YouTube on YouTube and you can't make it to your phone or your computer, you know, tap in with us on Apple Podcasts. You subscribe with us on there. Follow us. You know, Spotify. We're on pretty much everything on Google Podcasts,
Yeah.
Amazon Podcasts, and all links are in the description below. They'll be in the show notes too. And just like that. Oh wait, we got a comment. We got a comment.
If someone doesn't have a good relationship with their earthly father, how can they trust God the Father? Right as we're ending, we got a long question.
Ooh, Josh, you want to answer that
Oh, okay.
before we end off?
Yeah, sure, sure. Let's see. Okay, so if someone can't doesn't have a good relationship with their earthly father, how can they trust God the Father? All right, and so I think that that's a very valid question because like having an earthly father is like very tangible, or it's like right there. You know, you can either have a very positive experience with them, or you can have a very negative experience, and it has a direct consequence to how the rest of your life kind of goes. You know, and kind of tying that in with this whole God the Father kind of dynamic right here. You know, it's it all kind of ties back to the work in the cross. It all ties back
Mm,
to the cross, you know, and it's something that it's easy to kind of have that sort of lack of trust because of what earthly fathers may have done, you know, and I think having an important understanding of theology, of an important understanding of specifically Christology, and kind of the work done on the cross. It's so important to have because, and ultimately, like when we talk about theology and all this stuff, it's not just having the head knowledge of it, but then allowing it to kind of dive into your heart,
mm,
you know, and letting it soak in that like if God if God was able to save us from all these sins, right? From being the worst of the worst, sort of like just having all these sins wiped away and removed, if you're able to kind of believe that with your head and say, okay, this is something that actually happened, and I believe this, you know, then that is something that is remarkable. I think that that's something that is remarkable, and so I think that having that trust in God the Father, simply by that act alone, I think that that is something that you should allow to sink into your soul, and it's something that might take lifelong, ultimately, as we were talking about earlier, we're imperfect, everyone's going to be imperfect, and we might not get to a full point where we fully grasp that concept. I mean, even if you don't have like any negative experience with your early earthly father, it's still a very tough thing to really grasp fully,
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
we have this being that like loves us unconditionally without any excuse or anything like that. All sins, past, present, future, forgiven. I mean, that's a very hard concept to understand. And so I think that just allowing it, I don't know if like you can be a little bit more practical, perhaps, Chad, but like allowing it to kind of sink into your soul. And
I think the answer to this is like the problem of sin and evil, right? Like you blame we blame a lot of, well, we don't blame, but a lot of people blame God for the issues on earth, right? But most of the issues are a product of sin. Sin wasn't created by God. What is it called? The cosmic Swiss cheese, right? It wasn't created by God. God allowed it to happen, but it wasn't created by God, right? Because sin came into the world because Adam and Eve sinned, right? Like evil came into the world, corruption came into the world because Adam and Eve sinned. And that's completely separate from God, right? That's literally actually what separated. This is part of the gospel, right? Like this is like that's what separated uh man and God fully, right? And it wasn't until Jesus became the bridge between man and God that brokenness was mended, right? So in that brokenness, man is born sinful, but God himself is still perfect in that. Regardless if man is evil, right? Or if man is sinful, God is still perfect. Because God is set apart from human being, right? So I guess that would be, I guess, a practical way to explain it.
yeah,
Um yeah, and honestly, I got to explain the gospel. Jesus is the only way.
yeah,
His blood it forgives a multitude of sins, and is the only propitiation for sin,
yeah,
so, but yeah, I guess that's how I'd answer that.
yeah. Cool. All right, cool. If we got nothing else, then it's been a pleasure, Chad.
Yeah, Josh, I will see you very soon, bro. All
Very soon. Very.
right.
Yeah. See ya.